attorney in the health practice group, and I focus on access to essential health benefits, managed care, IHSS, and making sure that people with disabilities have the long-term services and supports they need to live safely in their homes and avoid institutionalization. As Robert mentioned, I'm also a BMC alum. Actually, 8 years ago today, I had a spinal cord injury. I had a tumor removed from my spinal cord at UCSF, and I then came here and was and still am a part of this great community and I'm so excited to be here and to be able to give back to a community that has done so much for me. So thanks for having me. Okay, so today I'm still working on my fine motors. This is going to be, okay, so, all right. So today we're going to talk about in-home supportive services, IHSS, and I'll first give you an introduction to Disability Rights California, and we'll go over pretty much almost everything related to IHSS. So what is the program, who is eligible, how do you apply, what kinds of services can you provide or be paid for, what do you do when you disagree with the county's decision, and hearing and appeal rights. So Disability Rights California is a public interest law firm. We have offices throughout California, Sacramento, Oakland, Fresno, LA, and San Diego. And we represent people with disabilities in a range of practice areas. We have a health practice group. We have a non-discrimination practice group, which focuses on ADA issues, mental health, abuse and neglect in institutions, youth and special ed, or access to technology or employment. So we work kind of with/against DOR sometimes. And to be eligible, you have to have a disability, but we provide a range of services, whether it's just legal advice all the way up to direct representation. It's completely free for you and also completely free to call if you have any questions. So definitely use us as a resource. Okay, so let's get started. What is IHSS? IHSS is a statewide program for people with disabilities to help them remain safe in their own homes. And it provides in-home care to individuals who have trouble or are unable to perform tasks independently. And it's administered by each county under the direction of the California Department of Social Services. And it's essentially an alternative to out-of-home placement, right? We want people to be in their homes, living as independently as possible. We don't want people to be in facilities, in bed, you know, really trying to make sure that we are out in the community where we belong. So who is eligible for IHSS? You have to be a resident of California. It's a statewide program, got to be a resident. You are eligible if you are blind, disabled, or over 65 years old, are Social Security, SSI, and or Medicare eligible. If you're living at home or in an apartment, you can't receive IHSS if you're living in a boarding care facility, if you're living in a nursing home. You have to be living in your own home or renting. And you need help to live at home. You need assistance with personal care services and tasks to help you complete your ADLs. Activities of daily living. Who else is eligible? You're eligible if you live in a facility and you want to live on your own, and you can safely live on your own if IHSS were provided, and you undergo a needs assessment. So if you're in a facility and you're like, you know, I want to go back home, I want to go into a different type of housing, you can do that as long as you no longer live in the facility when you receive IHSS. So what kinds of services does IHSS pay for? There are several categories. Domestic services, which is like housework, related services. I'll just list them now and then we'll go over them in detail next. Personal care services, bathing, grooming, accompaniment to medical appointments, paramedical services, which are more involved procedures that require the authorization of a licensed medical professional, so injecting insulin, even enemas, inserting suppositories, things that are just a little bit more involved with personal care. And time-limited services, which are, it's kind of this funky category, but we'll go over it a little bit later, and protective supervision. Whoa. So there's 2 asterisks under domestic services and time-limited services. Those are, the amount of service is calculated per month. It's not calculated per week. Every other category is how many hours you need per week. And that's just because, you know, well, I don't vacuum my house every week. So it's sort of household chores that we don't always complete weekly. Okay, so domestic services, housework, vacuum, taking out the trash, cleaning your wheelchair, charging your wheelchair batteries, changing your bed sheets, anything related to domestic care. Related services are related services to domestic chores, such as meal preparation, meal cleanup, laundry, grocery shopping, other shopping, picking up meds, buying clothes, buying toiletries. Those are things that you may not be able to do independently, but obviously need to do so for yourself. So IHSS can help you pay to get the assistance to do that. The third category, it's a big one, it's personal care services. So bathing, grooming, dressing, oral hygiene, help with prosthesis, medications, transfers, anything related to really how you get ready and groom in the morning and at night is another category that you can get IHSS services for. And accompaniment. So this is somewhat of a new one. A provider can be paid to drive you to and from medical appointments. If you have a doctor's appointment, you have a PT appointment, the driver will be paid for the time it takes to drive you there, and also in some cases for the time it takes to wait for the appointment and then drive you back. There's a distinction between wait time on duty versus wait time off duty. So when you are in wait time on duty mode, you, for example, take your recipient to a medical appointment and you don't know how long it's going to last, but you need to be there to assist whenever they're finished. So you can't go about doing your own tasks. It's an unspecified duration, and so you're still in this limbo. You're not able to fully engage in tasks for yourself, but you're not actively providing services for your recipient. But that is the category where you can still get paid for wait time. Wait time off duty is when the when the provider is notified in advance that they are relieved of their duties, and the appointment will take a specified duration, and usually a little bit longer than a typical appointment, and you are free to go about and do your carry out whatever tasks you need to do for yourself. So that is time where you cannot be compensated, and an example of that is a 3-hour dialysis treatment. You know how long it's going to last. You drop off your recipient. You're free to do whatever you like for the next 3 hours, and then you come back at a certain time, and so that you cannot be compensated for. You can also get IHSS for transportation to and from alternative places where you get services in place of IHSS. So day programs, resource centers, all programs like that, you can get paid for the travel time. And the next category is paramedical services. So these services are authorized by a doctor, usually, and provided under their direction. In order to get paramedical services, you have to fill out a healthcare, a SOC 321. It's essentially a signed authorization that the doctor says these are the tasks you need to complete. This provider is trained and knows how to do this safely, and it's essentially just a verification from your medical provider. So what kinds of services are paramedical? As I said earlier, think of it as some services that kind of are a little bit more involved in the body. So bowel program, catheters, pressure sores, wound care, tasks that are a little bit more medically related than, say, grooming or bathing or feeding. Time-limited services. These are calculated per month. They are timed for tasks like heavy cleaning or cleaning out weeds, removing hazards from your yard. There is also, your provider can also be paid for what's called teaching and demonstration. And that is where your provider is paid to teach you or show you how to complete certain tasks. But not all the services are eligible. The provider can only be paid for teaching you how to complete housework, meal prep, laundry, bathing, feeding, dressing, and yard work. And they can only be paid for 3 months maximum. And there's a picture of on here that you're probably wondering why that's on there. There's a bit of a catch to the teaching and demonstration. Not as good as this catch. So, the goal of IHSS is to be as independent as possible. So if you are learning how to perform these tasks for 3 months, your IHSS hours may be reduced if you are able to more independently complete them. So that's just something to keep in mind. Protective supervision is a category of IHSS, and it is for individuals who have a mental illness or mental impairment, and they are non-self-directing. Non-self-directing is an inability to assess danger or harm, and because you cannot recognize the difference between danger and harm, you engage in behaviors that may cause self-injury, hazard, or accident without understanding the danger that it poses to you. And you also need a 24-hour need for supervision. So that doesn't mean that someone needs to be watching you at all times of the day, but someone needs to be in the vicinity, or you have to have some alternative method, maybe with a baby camera or a regular camera in the house while your provider is in another room, some way that you're still being supervised to make sure you're safe. So your mental illness and mental impairment causes functional limitations in 3 categories. Memory, so forgetting people, places, things, names. You have your impaired orientation, so you wander off and you don't know how to get back, or you can't identify familiar places that you used to go to in your childhood, or just the lack of awareness of time and of time of day. So the third category is judgment. So people who are eligible for protective supervision have impaired judgment. They aren't able to assess danger and harm correctly, or if at all, and you make decisions without regard for your safety. So you might walk into the street without checking for cars because you don't know that it's dangerous to walk in the street without looking first. Or you put your hand on a hot stove not understanding that it can burn you. Tasks, behaviors like that. Also, in this category, you can qualify if you are unable to appreciate the consequences of your actions. So, for example, if you try to get up and walk without assistance, not knowing that could cause injury to you, you still are unable to assess the risk of injury to yourself. These are some examples of behaviors that warrant the need for protective supervision. Eating dangerous products or non-food items, wandering away from your house and not knowing how to come back, attempting to complete tasks beyond your physical capability, as I just said, without understanding the risk of injury, turning on the stove, forgetting to turn it off, not understanding stranger danger awareness.
I was checking the webcam.
Okay. No worries.
Sit down. Good feedback.
Obviously, these are just a few examples. There are numerous ones, but you can kind of see the difference. This category is a little bit different than the other categories. It's much harder to qualify for this particular service. And so protective supervision, when is it not available? There are exclusions to protective supervision. So it's not available for friendly visiting or social activities. So if you want to have coffee with your friends and you say, hey, provider, can you come with me? I want to have coffee with my friends. That isn't something that IHSS will pay for. The second exclusion is when the need is caused by a medical condition and the supervision required is medical. So if you have diabetes and someone needs, and you want to be supervised in case you become hypoglycemic, that is something that protective supervision will not pay for. In anticipation of a medical emergency, so if you have a heart condition and you would like supervision in anticipation of a heart attack, or if you have asthma and you want supervision in anticipation of an asthma attack, not available. So also, protective supervision is not available to prevent or control antisocial or aggressive behavior. So getting into fights, breaking things, but individuals who may have mental impairments may not be able to understand that what they're doing is harmful. And so you see how you can make the distinction between someone who may just seem like they're being aggressive, but really, may also not be able to understand that what they're doing is unsafe. And E, protective supervision is not available to guard against deliberate self-destructive behavior. So if someone who repeatedly attempts suicide, so protective supervision is available when you're wandering away from the house. It stops being available when you knowingly make the decision to continue to try making these suicide attempts, because you're aware of what you're doing. It can get the crux is really on your awareness and what you are aware of in your behaviors. So demonstrating eligibility, as I said, it's a lot harder to qualify for this particular category. There are two required forms. One is the SOC 821 Assessment of Need for Protective Supervision. This must be filled out by a medical professional, and it asks your doctor to rank your limitations in the areas of memory, orientation, and judgment, and also to indicate whether you've had any accidents or near accidents as a result of your mental illness or impairment.
How familiar are doctors?
Not very familiar at all. Yeah. Good question. Sorry.
Is social workers would be more readily available?
Yes. Yeah. And all these forms are can be found online. I printed a bunch of them just by Googling them. Just having the form alone doesn't establish eligibility. It's certainly a large part of the eligibility criteria, but it's not sufficient on its own. The second form you need is an SOC 825, which is just a 24-hour-a-day coverage plan. So the county just wants to see, if we grant this 24-hour supervision, are you going to be able to have care needs for this person throughout the day? And so it may include, from 8 to 3, he's in school, 3 to 5, he's with grandma, 5 to 7, he's with mom. Essentially just breaking down for the county that there are adequate individuals who can supervise the recipient. There are some optional things you can do to demonstrate your eligibility, and I highly recommend them. One is to create a hazard or injury log. You're really trying to build your case, right? You're trying to demonstrate that you need protective supervision, you need to be supervised to keep safe, because these are the behaviors that have occurred when I wasn't supervised. I walked into the street and I got lost and I didn't know how to get back. I chewed my Barbie doll because I didn't know that I'm not supposed to eat plastic. Really try to build a paper trail of why you need the supervision, and I can't stress enough how important it is to document everything, even if it's just grabbing a notebook and putting it on your desk and devoting it to just keeping a log of these behaviors. And you should also obtain letters from other providers or individuals, regional center counselors, school staff, people who are familiar with you, people who understand, people who can describe how your limitations impact your limitations in memory, orientation, and judgment, impact your ability to keep you safe, and why you need the extra supervision. And also including examples of unsafe behaviors and how often they occur. The county will tell you, for example, I had a client who applied, well, she was getting protective supervision and it was terminated, and the social worker told her, well, she may wander away from her house, but do you have any police reports? If you don't have any police reports, then, well, it doesn't need to escalate to the level of needing police reports or documentation. You just have to have the propensity to place yourself in harm's way. So even the county's letter that they release says that you don't always need specific examples. You just have to you don't have to go out to the street and get hit by a car. You just have to have the ability to do so and have done it. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. So those are all the categories for IHSS. Now, how will you get to how to apply the application process? Quick overview of the application process. You apply at the county IHSS office, complete a couple healthcare certification forms, prepare for your in-home assessment, attend an in-home assessment with a county social worker in your house, and then the county will notify you if you have been approved or denied for services. So step one, you call or visit your county IHSS office. I got the information for Santa Clara and Santa Cruz County. You can just, again, Google IHSS County, whatever county you live in, and the IHSS office. You call to apply. You can also go in person, and you'll just need basic, personal information about your housing, any other resources you're getting, what your diagnosis is, medical issues. It's a very just kind of to get your foot in the door, just to get the application rolling. This part of the process is not very involved at all. It's just filling out basic contact information. The second part of the application process is to have your doctor complete a healthcare certification form. But first, in order to get IHSS, you have to have a Medi-Cal eligibility determination. If you call IHSS, they will check if you are Medi-Cal eligible. If you're not, they'll send a referral to Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal will send you a packet to apply. Once you're approved, then you can apply for IHSS. So everyone who gets IHSS must have a Medi-Cal eligible determination. And after you call to apply, the county IHSS office will mail you a copy of the SOC 873, which is a healthcare certification form. This is to be filled out and completed by your provider. Same thing, basic questions to determine IHSS eligibility. They will probably contact your provider as well. This form must be returned within 45 days or your application will be terminated. Okay, step 3, preparing for your in-home assessment. The next part of the application process is you apply, you complete the 2 forms, and now you're waiting for your appointment with a county social worker to come to your house and assess you in your home. You shouldn't just wait there. You should be actively preparing for your assessment. There are 3 really helpful publications on DRC's website. It's called the Functional Limitations Assessment. And that you can, with assistance from your doctor, document your functional limitations in your ADLs, breathing, sitting, standing, lifting, etc. The second packet that I recommend that you take a look at is the self-assessment worksheet. It is essentially a chart, a 7-day table of all the IHSS tasks, and you record your start time and your finish time and how long it takes you to complete each task. Build your case now before the social worker gets there, because she won't be there for very long, and you need to prepare early. So the last bit of information is the IHSS assessment criteria worksheet. It essentially is you create functional ranks based on how much help you need in the different IHSS categories. So the general standards for ranking functional limitations are, they start at 1. So 1 is you are completely independent. You can complete it yourself without any assistance. 2, you need some verbal assistance. 3, some human assistance. 4, substantial human assistance. And 5, you cannot complete the task at all with or without assistance. And that is how the county goes through and assesses your functional ranking, and then they use your rank to determine your hours of need. If you find that you need more time, explain why. If you need more time than what the county authorizes for bowel or bladder, because, for example, you live in a house that isn't fully accessible and it takes extra time to get in and out of the doorway, in and out of your house. All these ways of why you need more time is important to really write down and explain, because the county can authorize amount of time above the guidelines, but they have to document why. And gather any other medical records or doctor's letters, providers, anything that will support your need for assistance to complete IHSS tasks. Oh, sorry, good.
So at the hospital, oftentimes what creates a lot of stress for new patients is that you have to apply for Medi-Cal, or they just apply for Medi-Cal, and then at the same time they're being told that they're going to get discharged next week, so they don't even have IHSS interviews. So it causes a lot of stress for patients. How is that dealt with?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's
Summarize the question.
oh, sure. What was your name? I'm sorry.
Franklin.
Franklin raised the question that a lot of inpatients, when they are staying at the hospital, they apply for Medi-Cal. The application process can take some time, and so in order to apply for IHSS, they have to first be eligible for Medi-Cal. Well, they're getting discharged next week, and so his question was, how do people kind of square the balance of these sort of stringent requirements? It's very, I don't have a great answer. I wish I did. All I can really say is that applying for these services while you're still in the hospital is actually something that a lot of people don't do and don't know about. And I think it's really important that we communicate that more to our inpatients, because IHSS is actually required to come to the hospital if you're in the hospital and assess you there, so that as soon as you get home, you can start receiving care. They don't do that all the times, or they say that they don't have to. But it's really, I think, just being a good self-advocate. It's hard. I wish I had a better answer. These programs, you're sort of up against kind of a wall, and you're at their mercy and how they move along with their process. But definitely a problem among majority of the community.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you would definitely not get IHSS until you have definitely been approved for Medi-Cal.
Yes.
There's no leeway, there's no...
None. Yeah, and actually, when you call to apply for IHSS, and I think I briefly mentioned this earlier, the eligibility specialist will actually check first, and before she even moves you along in the process at all. Yeah.
I think my question was going to be you, because this is a county-based program, so anybody who's not started with a county who goes to another county, and we send somebody from another county to another county to say something like that.
Yes, and you can apply here in Santa Clara County and have your case transferred to your home county. I see it a lot. It doesn't work out that well. The counties.
I would think they'd want the assessment in your home.
Yeah, right. And it gets pretty messy. It's not something that I would recommend trying to do.
One more question.
Sure.
Eligibility, it seems to be a contradiction there. On the policies, eligible for IHSS, you are SSI, SSP, or Medi-Cal eligible.
Which slide are you on? I'm sorry.
That's good. Eligible for
Eligibility is one of the early slides.
Oh yes. It should have said and. I'm sorry about that. SSI and Medi-Cal.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's SSI and SSP?
So SSI is supplemental security income, and SSP, what is it? It's sort of like a supplementary payment to SSI. It's
basically need to be pretty low income.
Yeah.
Be eligible for this.
Yes.
Supplementary payment.
There you go. Thank you.
I'm clearly disabled. I can help at home. I think that's not on. And the answer is I think that Social Security for men and work.
I see. If you have a higher income, you can still receive IHSS, but you will have a share of cost. It works kind of like a private insurance's deductible. And you essentially receive your provider is paid for partially from the state, and then you pay your provider yourself.
Is that based on your income level?
Yes, and I don't know the exact, I don't think that there is no ceiling. I think that there is somewhat of a limit, but I don't know the exact amounts. Sure. Okay. So you had your in-home assessment. Oh, no, we didn't. Let's go back. In-home assessment. A county social worker will come to your house for about an hour, and the purpose of their visit is to determine what you can and cannot do for yourself, and what services you need help with, and how much time you need to complete the tasks. Your job during the assessment is to advocate for yourself. Help the social worker understand how your disability impacts your impacts your ability to complete basic care tasks. Don't assume that they understand the nuances of your disability. I guarantee they won't. And two, disability is such a broad spectrum. You can have two people who are the same level of injury be sitting next to each other, but one feels things in a completely different way. And so you know your disability best. You're the expert on it. You live it every day. Really demonstrate and explain to them how your disability limits your ability to complete these tasks, and why you need assistance. Present credible evidence of how much time you need per task. And I underlined credible because you are entitled to what you need to complete tasks that you need help with. You're not entitled to the estimated time it takes you to complete a task, or a guess, or how much time you think you need to transfer or to get in and out of a car. Document actual need. It makes you look credible. It just makes the process so much easier if you can show, hey, social worker, here's this packet. Here's how long I timed myself for a week, and this is how long it took me to complete these tasks. It takes the question, removed a lot of the question out of the social worker's mind, and it just makes your case that much more compelling than saying, oh, I think it took me an hour to take a shower yesterday. And how you can do this, again, going back to those assessment worksheets and packets that are available on our website, I can't stress enough how, I guess I'll just quickly, so this is a self-assessment packet for 1 week. There are all of the categories you can receive IHSS services for, and you basically document what time you started and how long it took you to complete the task, and then your weekly total. And you start creating the paper trail, creating the record for why you need assistance in these categories. So how do I know if I've been approved? You will get what is called a notice of action. I think I've handed out a blank one. It's the long 8.5 by 14 form. So after you've applied, you've had your in-home assessment, your doctor completed all his forms, then you wait and you find out if you've been approved or denied. So you will get a notice of action if you've been approved. It will say how many hours and which categories you've been authorized for, and it will also state the date that the action takes effect. If you apply for IHSS in May and are approved in September, you get retroactive benefits from the date of initial application. Important to keep in mind, anyone who's getting Medi-Cal or other programs, that it could boost your amount of resources. So just something to always keep in mind when you're getting these big lump sum payments. You will get a notice of action if your application was denied. It should say the basis for the county's decision to deny you services, and it should ideally also have the regulations that support the action. You'll also get a notice of action if your existing services are terminated, changed, reduced. Generally, you will get notification of this in the mail at least 10 days before the action takes effect. So if they say, oh, we're going to decrease your service, your hours in personal care services, if I get the notice of action today, the 15th, then it will most likely take place at least 10 days from now, so June 25th or so. It doesn't always happen like that. If you don't get a notice of action, call the county right away and let them know. It will also, if your services have been changed, your notice of action will also include why it was changed, whether there was a change in your condition, you improved, and then also the difference between your current amount of hours and then what you were granted before. What if I disagree with the county? If you disagree with if you think you need more hours, you don't understand why your services were terminated or changed, appeal. Do this even though you're not sure, you're thinking, I don't want to go to a hearing, this sounds really daunting, just appeal. Don't miss the deadline. You can always withdraw your request for a hearing. Just get it in there. Super important point, appeal immediately and request aid paid pending. So aid paid pending, if you request aid paid pending before the action takes effect, then your services continue unchanged until you get your hearing decision. So if they say you don't need IHSS anymore today, and I appeal, my hearing is in August, and I request aid paid pending, even if I lose at my hearing in August, I'm still getting benefits and I don't have to repay them. So it's just more benefits for you, but you have to do it before it takes effect. So I can't call today, if my services are terminated effective June 15th, it's too late to call today, right, to request aid paid pending. You have to do it before the change takes place. If you receive your notice of action after the effective date, happens a lot, or you don't receive one at all, you should still appeal right away and ask for aid paid pending. I've had a couple of clients who didn't get notices of action, but verbally told the state that over the phone, and they were able to preserve aid paid pending. Doesn't always happen, but it's always best to just to go ahead and try. The form that I passed out, the big notice of action, you'll see that it has all the service categories, and it will show you what categories you've been approved for, how much time you've been approved for, whether that was a change in hours previously authorized or not, and essentially, once you're approved, you are reassessed every 12 months. So a social worker will come out a year from now to your house and do another assessment again, just to make sure, just to confirm eligibility for these services.
Have you visit everybody every year?
Every year, yeah.
That actually happens on time?
Yeah, and I actually, because I was getting IHSS for a while, and he came, I think, down to the week in every April. But it wasn't there very long, but
half an hour or so?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. How do I request a hearing, or how do I appeal the county's decision if I disagree? You can do one of the following. Fill out the back of a notice of action and mail it to the address that's indicated. You can send a written letter to the state. You can fax your request to the state, or you can call. I actually recommend calling. I've never had to wait for someone at the state at that number, and you have your case number. You say that I want to appeal my notice of action, and then your hearing request is in place. And again, just don't sit on it. You don't want to miss these deadlines. They're not going to extend them for you. Just if you're not sure, just apply. You can always withdraw later. You have to request a hearing within 90 days of your notice date. And on the notice of action, I just want to bring your attention, on the top right, there's a notice date, right here. And there's a notice date at the top. That's the date you look at when you determine the deadline to file a hearing. The effective date, right here, is the date that the action takes effect. It's a small just needle in your side, but it's important. It's an important distinction because you can request aid paid pending, but it's based on the effective date. Requesting a hearing is based on the notice date. I wish I had a good explanation for why they did that. I think it's just to make it harder on everyone. After you request a hearing, you will receive a notice confirming that you requested a state hearing. That should get to you within 2 days, 2 to 3 days. And then once you are assigned a hearing date and time and location, you will receive a hearing notice in the mail, and that will be at least 10 days prior to your hearing. It's not a lot of time, so you want to be actively preparing for the hearing leading up to this. Don't wait until you get a hearing date. Another kind of tidbit, you will get the contact information for the county appeals specialist. This is the appeals specialist that represents the county. They tend to be, they have much more, in my experience, much more knowledge and expertise and authority than the local IHSS offices. And so you may want to call them and just have a frank conversation with them and discuss what's going on. The social worker may say, oh yeah, or the appeal specialist may say, oh, you know what, I didn't, if you can submit the letter from your doctor, then I can take a look at it and maybe we can resolve this short of hearing. That's happened to me a couple times. No one wants to go to hearing. It's stressful, time consuming. Why not try to open the communication now and try to resolve your dispute. It's not always going to happen, obviously, but in my experience, they have been great at actually accepting documents, whereas when you call the county, I was on hold for 4 to 5 minutes, I think, last week. So just something to think about. Okay, how do I prepare for a hearing? So review your IHSS case file. By law, the IHSS is required to allow you to review your case file during business hours. Look at case notes from your social workers, any medical records, review your functional index ranks that the county ranked you at. And make sure that all that information is up to date. If it's not, if you've had a change in your condition, get the most current information. I keep going back to these worksheets, but again, build your case, present your evidence, present credible evidence, make your life that much easier. And obtain more doctor's letters explaining how it impacts your ability to complete tasks. If you've had a change in condition that warrants an increased need for IHSS, your doctor should explain what the change in your condition is. If you have a varying condition, for example, say your nerve pain is really bad some days and other days it's not so bad, your doctor should explain that even though it varies, it should be taken together on an average. They won't take the worst nerve pain day. They won't take the best one, but they will average the amount they should. more ways to prepare. The county position statement, they will mail you or email you their position statement 2 business days before the hearing. They're required to do that. It's not a lot of time before your hearing. You then have to turn around and review the position statement, see why how they came to their conclusion, and it can also highlight any other evidence or witnesses that you may need. So for example, if they say, mom was at InHome assessment, mom said that daughter can wash the dishes on her own, you may want to bring your mom to the hearing or have her submit a declaration disputing or confirming any facts. Just look at the county's position statement. If there are statements in there that you don't agree with or you don't think are true, think about how you can disprove them or explain or clarify what was said at the hearing. These social workers base a life or everyday need based on a 45-minute assessment, and sometimes it's hard to get everything across that you want to talk about with a social worker. And so, reviewing their position statement, you will learn a lot about what they were observing during the in-home assessment. They take a lot of notes. And this will help, reviewing their position statement will help you anticipate their questions, and you can prepare responses ahead of time. So that way, in a hearing, you're a little bit more prepared, again, looking more credible, and just being able to respond better. And so after you review their position statement, this is not required, but we highly recommend you draft your own position statement. There's a sample one on our website. It doesn't have to be super involved, but you're kind of like your own lawyer. So you should, demonstrate, list the category that you need help with, explain why you need more time than you were given, explain the tasks, the different things that you need to do to complete these tasks, and why there's a need for increased time. And it just helps you to, in a hearing, emotions can get, it can be a stressful setting at times. So preparing a position statement ahead of time can really enable you to prepare your evidence and just be better prepared for the hearing. And it's a good way for the judge to say, oh, look, this person prepared ahead of time. They took the time to do X, Y, and Z. They like to see facts. So charts, tables, anything you can show that will help your case. If you get a hearing date and you are not ready, if you're going to be out of town, or if you are still in the process of obtaining medical letters from your doctors and you haven't gotten them yet, you can request a postponement calling the same number, the 800 number, and you can request, you always get the first postponement. I've always gotten the second one that I've got requested. I got denied a third time, but that was mostly my fault. So just know that it's not a hard and fast timeline. I mean, you don't want to push it off so far because these are your benefits. So you want to make sure that you're not putting it off for too long. Hearings are an informal setting. You are in a room with the county appeal specialist, the social worker, the administrative law judge, and any witnesses that you bring. The county will go first. They explain why the hours were cut or why services were denied, or maybe why additional time should not be granted. And then it's essentially after that, it's a presentation of evidence about your needs in the categories that are in dispute with the county. So testimony by witnesses, doctor's letters, diary logs, medical records, Again, going back to demonstrate need, show what you need, how long it takes, why you need more time, and you can even show them these are some of the safety risks that I encounter without this higher level of service. And again, you can bring witnesses, or they can simply draft declarations and that you can submit into evidence that the judge will consider. After the hearing, you will receive the hearing decision usually within 30 days. It will be mailed to your house, and a copy will also be mailed to the county. It will be good news or bad news. If it's bad news, you can request a rehearing, but you have to do it within 30 days after receiving the hearing decision. It's a short timeline, and it's not a great remedy. Rehearings are not automatic. They are discretionary. They're very hard to be granted. You need to show. There are 7 justifications for why you can get a rehearing, but it's very, very hard. I've only seen one so far. And if you don't get a rehearing, then your last remedy is to file a writ of administrative mandamus in state superior court. So in the hearings or rehearings, we're in administrative court. After you exhaust your administrative remedies, then you go out. Your last remedy is to file in superior court. You're essentially asking the director of social services to review the lower decision and reverse it, and why. You have to file a writ within 1 date of your hearing decision. So if I get my hearing decision today, June 15th, the deadline to file a writ is June 15th, 2018. 90 days to file a hearing request, 30 days to request a rehearing, 1 year to file a writ. Don't miss the deadlines. Can't stress that enough. Some advice that I have, you are your own best advocate. A lot of these programs are figuring out how to advocate for yourself and really explaining what you need and the services that you need help, the tasks you need help with. I said this earlier, but you know your disability best. You know your care, your care needs. So just really think about what you can put forth and present so that you can get the care that you need to be safe. You're entitled to these benefits, and don't let the county make you believe otherwise. Be persistent. The calls, fax, email, show up there over and over and over. I'm going to just tell you right now that the county IHSS is very notorious for not returning patients or recipients' calls, not returning emails. My only advice to you is to try not to get discouraged. It can be very discouraging when you see their case notes in your file and you see what they wrote, and it can make you very upset and angry as to how they interpreted or twisted your words. Try your best to leave the emotion out of it and remember what it is you're applying for and why you need it. That's really all I can say about that. Make copies and buy a folder. Keep your records in a safe place. All correspondence from IHSS, all of these SOC forms, even down to the envelopes people have kept, because IHSS says, well, I mailed it to you on this date, but actually the envelope says a different date. So it's just something to keep in mind. They're looking for any way to get you to go away and to not come back. So don't let them win. Gather your evidence early. Your doctors, they're familiar with you, but they don't see you in your in the community or in your home every day. So they don't know what kinds of incidents happen at home all the time. They don't know what kind of every care need that you have. So share these logs with your doctors. It will just help. It will help them help you. Everyone will be on the same page. I guarantee the county will call them and they won't tell you that they're going to call them. So you just want to make sure that everyone is just understands what's going on. I had a client who she swallowed, poison control was called to her house a couple times because she ate dangerous items, and the county called her doctor and said, oh, you know, mom said this happened. Mom said poison control was called twice. Do you know anything about this? And he said, no, I didn't hear anything. And the daughter her application was denied. And it turned on just, the doctor didn't ask the patient whether this had happened or not. It's not really something that would come up in a routine appointment. So make sure, my point is to just make sure that there is an open line of communication with you and your provider. If you need to, drop off the log with him and so that he can keep it in or her, and so that they can keep it in your file. And my last little bit of advice, there are 4 publications on our website. One of them is 70 pages.
Which one's that?
If you don't get IHSS after completing all of this, then I don't know what to tell you. Everything in here, on our publications, we split it up by categories, and there's charts that say county might say, and then ways that you can respond, because they've sort of developed these methods of presenting questions or posing questions that make it very difficult to answer, and then can mean the difference between whether you get services or not. So really, I look at everything we have online. It's all on the DRC website. You just click on the publications tab and then IHSS. These are the main ones. They're really informative. They're long, but they are easier to understand, in my opinion, than reading a bunch of state regulations or something like that online. And they offer a lot of insider information on what to expect from counties and how you can respond to their devious ways. Yes.
Here, so you have people that will help with this kind of stuff, or is that back at it? Like, here, go read this and you're on your own?
So we do not help people apply for IHSS. If you were denied or terminated, then that is something that we can, if you call us, we determine. We are a nonprofit, so there's limited resources, but we evaluate the merits of the claim.
Do you help people prepare for the hearing or whatever?
Yeah, and it may not even be, so I may not directly represent you, but I ghostwrite a lot of position statements for clients to take to their hearings.
That's, thank you very much.
Yeah, and yeah, they've worked out pretty well. So it's, again, we may not go all the way up to directly representing you, but we can point you in the direction. We can write it for you. We can help, not coach you, but prepare you for the hearing. Make sure you know what questions to ask and which information to highlight. What else was I going to say? Oh, yes. Any issues or anything comes up, you can always call our toll-free number to do an intake. Someone will call you back within 2 days. And even if it's just limited technical advice or limited legal advice, you know, small, it doesn't have to be all the way up to representing someone, but just it's hard to find a lot of this information online. So it's, come to us, we are willing to help. Please.
We'll open it up to questions, and then
Yeah.
you can speak out.
Yeah, no, that's my last.
If you just remember to repeat the question.
Sure, Franklin.
Let's talk about the caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know to what extent you know this, but does IHSS maintain a database of qualified caregivers that someone can speak out?
They do. Each county should have a public authority. I've heard that they're not always up to date, but they do have a provider registry that you can call also. So there's an online registry. You can also call a number to find a provider. There's a lot of the all the providers in the public authority list are already trained and have gone through the IHSS training provider curriculum.
So they've been vetted and background checked?
Right, exactly.
Maintains that list? County Sheriff's Office?
No, the county. Yeah,
It'll be the county social services or?
county social services or adult and aging. Yeah. Good question.
What's the going rate right now?
I think in this county it's 11, 12.
So it varies by county?
Yes, varies by county. Not going to get rich off of IHSS, sorry.
And do
But-
they also qualify for medical benefits, state medical benefits?
Yes. Providers can qualify for health insurance, and it's
Based on 20 hours of work a week?
right, exactly. Yeah, we don't do a lot of provider issues just because we mostly represent the individual, but I do know that there are registries online and public authority that everyone always.
And a provider could be a family member, spouse, et cetera, right?
Family member, spouse, friend, stranger.
What was your insurance question? How do they, like, let's say a family member, what, 30 hours or whatever, it's
Medical insurance, so they also get medical insurance.
They can. They can get Medi-Cal managed care if they meet the income eligibility, which they probably will. And that's kind of a new development. That's sorry, in the hallway. Yeah. And also, if you're providing in-home IHSS to someone in your own home, in your immediate family, it's tax exempt. So also something to keep in mind. Anyone else? Any other questions? Oh, yes, go ahead. No worries. Don't be sorry.
I don't know if you're going to know the answer to this question, but do you know if other states offer similar programs to IHSS here?
They do. I know that Washington has an IHSS program. Ohio.
You don't think every state has a program, or some states that don't?
There could be. It's statewide, so it's not like it's a federal program, even though it receives federal funding. So I'm not completely certain. Yeah, statewide program, but each county administers their own.
Yeah, somebody recently moving out of state, we didn't know the answer to that question.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a family move to Sacramento, and they were getting it in Massachusetts. Yeah. I should look into that, though. I only assist California residents, so I don't really know. Go ahead.
Somebody like myself who worker was able to
Yes. And are you an inpatient right now? Okay. So, you know, not to bombard you with. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't been interviewing. The question was whether if the social worker can help you facilitate this process. And yes, they are the individuals who should be telling you about this before you leave the hospital. You know, it's prepare your long-term services in your own home. Get started now. You see how long the process takes. It's, you know.
Right now, I'm the only one working. My wife works. My wife is the one that cares for me.
Okay.
So she could apply.
Yes. So she will not work in her other job at all?
There's no job that she thinks of. She's gonna try to do that.
Okay. As long as they may have her fill out a form from her provider verifying that she can be a caregiver. But yes, that she will be able to be your provider. Uh-huh. Okay. What insurance do you have? Oh, yeah. Okay. The managed care? Yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I recommend looking into this. Probably have some time. Okay. You can work and be an IHSS provider. You can't work 40 hours per week and be an IHSS provider. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
That's awesome that you come that far.
Thank you.
You should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so please register yourself on the.
Oh yeah, sure. Should I change it to? Okay. Sure. Oh no. Can you help me? Let me go to the first slide.
Yeah, they sent the handout, make sure you get
The first slide?
Uh-huh.
You want from the beginning?
Uh-huh.
What are you trying to do?
Wait, he wants to take a picture.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Look, can you make it into the slideshow?
Let's see.
Sorry.
Oh, Robert's doing something.
Oh,
Yeah.
Robert, you ruined our picture.
Okay, I'm gonna put it.